Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at Tuesday's rescheduled Grade 3 Parx Dash at Where Else Parks. Here's the field. We're going 5 furlongs on the turf for the Grade 3. $200,000 is the purse. The 6, the Critical Way, 8 to 5 on the morning line. Deserves to be the favorite, Mike, even though he was bested by Fire Crow last time out. This horse just seems to show up each and every time, has winning experience at Parx.
Yeah, all those things are true. He's actually, Dan, considering his overall body of work, especially recently, he's probably a little underrated.
Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this race. And I'd like to urge everyone to head on over to timeformus.com once scratches are made official. It is very likely that the 10, Sheki Shabazz, and the number 11, the Connector, are both likely to scratch out of this race. Now, this pace projector will automatically update once scratches are announced. There should be a solid pace. Fire Crow, the Critical Way, they were pushing it in the Jim McKay Turf Sprint, and they're likely to be up close as well. I think Francatelli's going to show some speed.
Yeah, I do too. I suppose you could look at this and say, you know what, these are, if you throw Francatelli in there, these are 3 of the favorites in the race. They might go up there and burn each other out. That's certainly possible. The flip side of that is those 3 might be the best horses in the race.
Pennsylvania bred, the number 1, Amblin Man's going to be hoping for a barbecue up front. This horse hasn't won a race in a very long time. You have to go back to 2017. He's 5 for 50 lifetime. He's coming out of a pair of 8,000 starter allowances, and he has to improve by leaps and bounds to beat these horses.
Correct. I mean, listen, he's very hard to make on paper in this race. If you like him, you're going to get way more than the 20-1 morning line.
Baracho finished 3rd in the Grade 1 Woody Stevens in 2019, a race in which on dirt he got a very fast pace he closed into. He really has never lived up to that race since. He has been claimed twice this year. He has only raced twice previously on the turf, one in a 2-turn race against a legitimate Grade 3 type and Olympic runner, and the second against a very good turf sprinter in Leinster, so maybe he's a little dirtied up.
Could be. We'll see how good he actually is, at least on turf. I think we kind of know how good he is on dirt. His first turf race, they're going a mile down in the Olympic runner race. That was a pretty fast pace. I was surprised to see him up there on it because he was more of a closer on dirt. So maybe he was just really compromised by the way that race was run. And then when they cut him back in his next start, as you mentioned, Leinster, I know, even as good as this field is, Leinster would be a pretty heavy favorite in here.
3rd start of the year for the number 3, Where You Was, who appears to be racing himself back into shape. Let's watch his most recent start, a 2 other than at Penn National, going 5 furlongs, and we see Where You Was on the outside. He's only going to be beaten a half length in here. Doesn't have a lot of wins on his record, however, only 3 with 6 seconds and 10 thirds.
Yeah, it's just another one in here against this kind of a field. He's just, a little bit hard to make. He runs okay in this race. He never looked like he was going to win, and he was pretty easily outfinished for second.
Fire Crow raced against some really strong dirt horses at Oaklawn Park over the winter, and he returned to turf last time out at Pimlico in the Jim McKay Turf Sprint. And let's watch that race right now. The Critical Way was able to make the lead in this spot. Fire Crow is on the outside, and as they turn into the stretch, it's the Critical Way in front. Here comes Fire Crow on the outside, and Fire Crow is going to get by the Critical Way in a good performance. Now, he beat 3 of these horses in that race, Mike. I talked to Ron Moquette, asked him about the layoff. He said he had a little bit of a foot issue. He may not be as fit for this race as he was in the Jim McKay, but off that last race, he's a contender.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, I guess if he's not 100% fit, that could be a problem for him. If he runs back to his most recent start, however, he's going to be a handful in here. I know he was almost 10-1 that day, but you could just see there in the stretch run, Dan, Joel Rosario rode this horse with a lot of confidence, and he beat the Critical Way under strong handling that day.
Fire Crow, Francatelli, pardon me, ran really well against the Criminal Way 2 starts back. I think watch that race in Formulator. He kind of broke, and he's a horse that likes to be forward. He kind of got squeezed down on the inside, shuffled back, and you can't afford to make a mistake against a horse like the Critical Way going 5/8 of a mile. He ran in the De Haas at Colonial, and he rebounded with his usual early speed, and it took a nice horse to beat him. That just might would be a handful in here.
Yeah, that's a good horse that he fell to last time. That was not a poor performance at all. I'm with you that his race 2 back, he was probably compromised just by not getting out of the gate as well as he usually does. I think this horse has a real chance to rebound and beat this field. Not that it would be a huge upset, but he's not going to be the favorite.
Now, we saw the Critical Way finish second to Fire Crow in the Jim McKay. He's been unstoppable since at Monmouth Park. Here's the Critical Way winning the Wolf Hill Stakes, as he should have. He was 1-10. He saved ground in the pocket. He angled 3 wide on the turn, and he was just too much for this field. Trainer Jose Delgado, after this race, indicated that he wanted to go to the Parx Dash all along. Here he is. Nice outside post position, gives Paco Lopez options.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's just a lot to like about him. We'll see how short a price he settles at because, he does have some serious rivals to deal with here, but his good race is very good. He's got speed. He doesn't necessarily need the lead, Dan. This is a horse who's held his own, with horses like Imprimis and Extravagant Kid. He's obviously very, very good. He's the horse to beat.
Always tried to make a case for the 7 So Street, but the fact remains he hasn't reached the winner's circle since winning a stakes race for 2-year-olds at Laurel Park in September of 2019. Now, last time out, I thought he ran okay at Colonial. The winner of that race is a decent horse. Grateful Bread would come back to run second in a stake at Monmouth with an 89 buyer.
Yeah, he's just hard to take just off of his recent form, Dan. Not that he hasn't been keeping good company. He's got that win that you mentioned back at the end of 2019 and a little bit of a losing streak since then. And when he won that race, he got absolutely loose on the lead, and that's not happening in here.
The number 8 is Battle Station. This horse is battle tested. It'll be start number 37 for Battle Station, a horse that's been racing for a tag in New York, and he's been doing okay. He won for 80 back in May, going 6 furlongs. Last time out, however, didn't really do much against Gear Jockey over wet turf.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool horse, really hard-hitting kind of horse. He shows up every single time. He can fall into a trip in this race. He is a horse who, he's not slow early. So he could be right up close if the 3 favorites sort of go at each other and just land in the right kind of spot here. He's going to be a price, too. You could use this horse somewhere.
9 Appealing Future entered main track only. 10 Shecky Shabazz. 11 The Connector expected to scratch. We'll talk about the 12. I Got a Rock, who just scored in an off-turf race at Pimlico last time out. But let's go back to his most recent turf start, 3 back on October the 7th. Here's I Got a Rock at Parx, going 5/8 of a mile. He was the favorite in this race. He made the lead. He ends up finishing second. Not sure he had a big excuse here.
He didn't. This is, obviously a much cheaper race. He does his best in here, sort of typical of this horse. He has no excuse not to win. It's not a particularly fast race. He's also a horse who, really likes to use his speed in his races, and that's gonna be very tough for him to accomplish against this field.
Absolutely right. Likeable horse. He's got 10 lifetime wins, but from out there, he's likely going to have to run and gun and might be caught pushing a fast pace while wide. King's House entered main track only, so it's top pick time for the grade 3. Parx Dash. We're both going to go with Fire Crow, and I am a little bit concerned about this laugh, and I'm a little bit concerned that Moquette tells me that he may not be as fit as he was last time, that they're thinking about the Breeders' Cup and long-term aspirations, but I think this is a nice horse, Mike. I'm going to take him over the Critical One. We'll go away.
I'm going to take him too. We'll see how they wind up betting the race. Listen, if I, started betting races based on what trainers tell me beforehand, I'd probably never bet a horse. So I'm just going to take Fire Crow and believe that he's every bit as good as he was the last time we saw him.
Same triple, different super. 4652 for Mike, 4653 for me. Grade 3 Parx Dash. We'll see if the Critical Way can keep on rolling in the Parx Dash. Good luck.